Hey Potter people, it's Riley,
And Isaac.
and today we're interviewing Michael Grant, author of the Gone series Gone, Hunger, Lies, and the Upcoming Plague. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody.
How are you?
Doing great, actually. It's night here, or evening, and we are actually packing up. We're taking a road trip tomorrow up to San Francisco. I live in Southern California, but we're all
Oh, cool. It's very exciting. Cool.
Yeah, well, it's 9 hours in the car with kids, so.
Oh.
That's a little hard, yeah. Okay, well, our first question is, did you always want to be an author?
No. As a matter of fact, I didn't start writing until I was pretty old. I was in my 30s, and I didn't really have a goal or a plan or any kind of serious clue as what I was going to do with my life until I was in my 30s. So it kind of came late, and up until that point, I worked in restaurants. I waited tables. I did all kinds of different jobs. I managed property. I worked in a bowling alley. I was a law librarian. I was a bunch of different things for quite a while after I dropped out of school. So I spent from about 16 when I left school until about like 33 or 34 before I decided to start writing. So kind of a long period in there.
Interesting. Well, it's surprising because you seem like you're a very good author to start to live. Yeah, sure.
I appreciate that.
The next question is, do you have a favorite spot to write? It's just kind of interesting to see from authors.
I always try to write outside. And I don't know why exactly, but at some point I used to write in coffee shops a lot. I'd go to Starbucks or something like that, and I'd write. I just don't like writing right inside my house for some reason. So right now what I do is I go out in my backyard. I've got two different places. I've got a balcony up on the second floor that I can write on sometimes, and then there's my backyard, which is kind of enclosed with a fence, a tall stone fence or concrete, whatever it is, bricks around it. And I've got a little fireplace back there. So even if it's chilly, I can fire up a little fireplace and sit out there until it gets too cold.
Is that where you usually film your videos on Facebook?
Yeah, anytime you see that, that's my place back there. And I move fairly frequently. So a couple of years ago, I was writing outside in Italy, and then I was writing outside my backyard and across Irvine in another house, and now we're here.
Okay, one more question before Riley starts his.
Sure.
What takes place in your writing process?
I just start. I don't plan a lot. So Gone books are very complicated to plot. I mean, they're very plot dense. So there's a lot of different things happening, a lot of threads, so to speak. So I kind of start off with a vague idea, like for example, I'll say hunger, and then I think, what I'll do? I'll write about all different kinds of hunger in every kind of aspect that I can, or lies, or plague, and I'll think about all those, all the different permutations of that. But then I just find a good place to start. I usually try to think, well, what's a really cool way to start this thing? What's a good opening scene? And then I follow it logically as much as I can. So I start off in one place. Sorry, that's the dogs. And then I follow it logically from that point forward until hopefully it all comes together at the end.
Okay, Riley, go ahead. Number 2.
Is the relationship between Sam and Astrid going to kind of rebuild itself because it kind of deteriorated as the series went along?
Without giving too many spoilers, I would say that it's very important to me, the concept of true love, and so Sam and Astrid, I think, have it. How about that?
Okay. Are any of the characters inspired by real-world people?
Just two, and it's the only time in my life, after as many books as I've written, the only time I've used real characters. My son is the model for Computer Jack because he's Jake, and he's, hang on a second. I'm sorry, let me start that over again.
That's okay.
My son is the model for Computer Jack. His name is Jake, and he's been a computer prodigy all of his life. And my daughter is the model for Brianna because she's very bold and very physical. So those are the only time I've ever used real people.
Okay. Riley, do you want to do number 4?
Yeah, but I guess since he brought up that his kids were the models for Jack and Brianna, was it difficult for you to go through the whole aspect of them becoming sick in lies?
No, it doesn't bother me. That kind of thing doesn't bother me too much. I don't get too emotionally involved in it. Actually, the emotions that I tend to feel during writing are more about the effect that I'm having on the readers. So for example, if I know that I'm writing something that I think is going to rattle people or shake them up or, make their heads explode, I get kind of happy. Makes me happy. But I never worry too much about my kids. Probably Jack and Brianna will survive the series just because I've admitted that they're based on my kids, so they're probably both pretty safe.
Okay.
Do you think that if Orsay had remained in the series and not had her, position in the series been removed, that she would have kind of changed the outlook on things because she began to do that in Lies? She began to change the way people saw the occurrences, and she became acquaintances with Neretza before she knew what she really was.
She was actually a very interesting character, and as always with me, I never decide anything until I write it. So I wasn't sure what was going to happen to her until right when I wrote it. I mean, I was literally at the end of the thing, and I thought, okay, I think that's what has to happen. So then I did feel a little bit bad about that because she was a good character. I felt, for example, less bad about killing off Mary just because I'd used her up, so to speak. I mean, which sounds kind of harsh, but I'd gotten her to do everything I needed her to do, and I could think of to do with her. But I could have used Orsay for another book. But my rule is I will follow it through as realistically as I know how once I start.
Okay. Are we going to see Brittany again later on, possibly in Fear or Light, if not Plague?
I think we'll definitely see Brittany.
Okay.
She's around, but in a strange kind of way.
Oh. Can you give us a clue as to major or minor plots in Plague?
In Plague, well, there are. I will say that there are two plagues, plural. There's actually two different things going on.
Okay.
This is some of the creepiest stuff I've ever written. I came very close to deciding to kill off a major character and then decided not to. And the parts of the map that we haven't seen before, we'll see those.
Ooh, very exciting.
Hey, Isaac.
Thanks for doing.
We're going to explore more of the map. Let's put it that way.
Isaac, before you do your next question, I want to ask, does one of those plagues have to do with that little snippet you gave us between Sam and Decca on your Facebook?
What did I say? I forget.
Decca had like a bump, I think, and...
Oh, yeah. There's definitely... Decca definitely has a bad book in Plague. Let me say that.
Oh.
Decca has a really bad book.
Oh.
No, I don't want to give too much away, but Decca's having a very hard time.
Sure. Okay. Kind of on a lighter note, will Diana's hair grow back?
Yeah, I think she would have to. I was going for kind of a Natalie Portman. You remember V for Vendetta?
Yeah.
Where she had the short hair, and I thought I'd go for that for a while, but now it'll grow back. All sorts of interesting things happening to Diana too. She's got a very, very big role. Not so much in Plague, but in Fear. Let me put it this way: that she's got a life-altering, reality-changing kind of role to play.
Wow.
Big stuff happens with her.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you reveal any information about new characters in Plague or later on in the series? And what about Toto?
And sorry, what was that last part?
What about Toto?
Oh, he's what about him? How do you know about him?
On your Facebook or your Twitter, one of those.
Riley, you're a bit...
Did I? Oh, okay. Interesting. Wow, that was pretty good. I was like, wow, how the hell does he know that? Well, he's Toto's a new character.
Yeah.
And he's got a very I'll say this. Well, actually, you know what? I'll give you one spoiler out of all this. He's a truth teller, and when he hears anybody else speak, he automatically knows whether or not they're telling the truth.
Oh, wow.
So it would have been really helpful to have him around in Lies, but he's not in Lies. He shows up later, and in an interesting kind of way.
Wow. Did anything happen to make you decide to make Decca the one who was lesbian as opposed to any of the other characters, or was it just you wanted to diverse it up and kind of change it?
I thought she was from the start. I'd always kind of seen her that way. It's interesting. Some characters, it takes a while to kind of form them in my head.
Yeah.
And you'll see that I have descriptions of them that almost shift over time because I don't have a really good grasp on what they look like.
Yeah.
And with Decca, I had a picture. So one of the things I do when I start off a book, especially when I start the series, is I go online and I start looking at photographs. And it could be of places and people, lots of faces, lots of headshots of people. And I had one of Decca that I just looked at and said, okay, that's Decca. I mean, right away. And I immediately knew, what she was, who she was, what she was like. And then I really liked the character a lot. So she's been really kind of clear in my head right from the start. But
yeah,
no,
I definitely, yeah.
it wasn't so much about diversity. It was about my approach is that, look, I started off with 300 odd kids, right? So give or take 300, whatever it was, I forget, 332, something like that. And, a certain percentage of them are going to be straight, most of them will be, a certain percentage will be gay, some will be black, some will be white, some will be Asian, so I'm just trying to look at this like from a demographically honest point of view.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to, so I'm not making, I guess, political points one way or the other, so much as just trying to be very realistic about if I have 300 plus kids, what kind of cross-section of humanity does it give me?
Yeah.
Yeah, even if you don't try to make your books diverse, it just seems like you're very good at making it more realistic, like a real.
Well, I'm always very interested in different kinds of characters, and I'll tell you something else. In Fear, I'll give you. I won't tell you what the answer is, but look at it this way: the diversity does not stop with Decca.
Uh-oh.
Find out in Fear, and it's going to be a humongous thing when it happens. Their jaws will hit the floor when they find out.
Oh.
Oh, you're giving me lots of spoilers.
But not till Fear, and I'm not going to tell you who it is.
Okay.
Okay. How do you plan to incorporate religion later on in the books, and how does it relate to the actions of the characters? Just seems like, I know, like in Harry Potter, this is a Harry Potter podcast. It seems to be a major role of debate. You might not be one way or the other, but it's just interesting how authors incorporate it into their books.
And like with...
Yeah, well, my approach has been exactly like lesbian, gay, straight, different races kind of thing. I said, look, this is a town in the United States, and the odds are that about 90 or 95% of the kids are religious in one or another. And across that spectrum, there are going to be some who are, seriously religious, like Adelio and Astrid are, and some who are kind of, half-assed and don't really care, like Sam. And then there are others who are probably going to be atheist or agnostic. Now, I'm not personally religious, but I wanted to treat religion, very fairly and openly. And so I have characters who are religious and are really trouble, like Brittany becomes, and then I've got characters who are religious and are really admirable, like Adelio. And I didn't want to, I'm not sort of taking sides or having any kind of axe to grind. It's all about making the characters realistic. Now, I will say this, the religion issue is a big issue in Fear. It's less so in Plague, just because they're busy with other stuff. But in Fear, it comes very much to the fore because there are some changes and some shifts and some people beginning to freak out about some different things and beginning to have some questions. And I had a little bit of pushback from my editors on it, actually. They said, are you talking too much about religion? I said, no, because this is what the characters would be doing. And in part, one of the questions is it okay to have kids say, oh my God, or is that some kind of curse word? And I argued to them, and I said, no, because, I may not be religious myself, but I know something about religion. I know that Jesus on the cross called out, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And if it's okay for him, it's probably okay for, for everybody. So it's not like that's a bad word in and of itself. And they were like, well, I said, no, because, when kids are scared to death, of course they're going to call out to God.
Yeah, they're not going to say, oh my goodness, when they're...
I mean, it's just, it's been the language issue has been a problem for me all along, just because I kept it G-rated, basically, and sometimes I kind of wish I hadn't, and sometimes it's very frustrating, because, after Drake has just whipped the skin off your back or something, I kind of think you're allowed to drop the F-bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But the market doesn't like that, and so I've kept it cleaner. It's flipped a little bit toward PG, I would say.
Kept it more Disney.
I kept it very G-rated at the beginning, and then at Fear, I finally just lost it. Said I need a little bit of slack. I need a little bit of room here.
Yes.
So,
Right.
But not much. I mean, it's a very slight difference. There's just a couple of places where I felt like, I need a little room. That's all. Yeah.
Well, you did kind of answer this earlier, but and you talked about how you do want Brianna and Jack to survive the series, but how do you think that they will heal in Plague? Well, I mean, obviously you know how they're going to since you've written the book, but I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think. Well, I don't want to give away too many spoilers. I would say that Plague mostly affects. I would say that the single person. Well, there's a comment somebody dies, so I guess it affects that character quite a bit. But then I think a lot of the action is centered on Decca, who has, like I say, a very bad book. And Sam is, to a certain extent, sidelined just because he kind of ends up in the wrong place at the wrong time. And one of the things I want to avoid is having book after book where Sam is the guy who saves the day. So, I don't want him solving everybody's problems for them. And I really want him to be kind of an imperfect human being. There are times he's obviously very brave, but he's also gets kind of pouty, at times when he doesn't feel like he's getting enough respect, or, people are second guessing him, and then he gets kind of bitchy and, just gets difficult to get along with at times, which is, I think, a fairly normal way to be. So he doesn't play as big a role in Plague as some other people. And have you seen the book trailer for Plague?
Yes, and I loved it.
The one with what We Need a King. Yeah, that was by the way, a major spoiler coming out of that. But
Oh.
okay, cool. So yeah, there's interesting stuff there. There's interesting stuff with the island, kids from the island. There are, like I say, other parts of the map that we haven't been to before that we're going to go take a look at. Here's something. I don't know if I've given this out before or not, but I'll give you a single word hint. Nutella. Nutella plays a strangely large role in this next book. So just kind of as a sideline, and I'll tell you how it came to be. It was purely by accident. I like to incorporate random chance into my writing, and so lots of times I'll, like I say, I don't plan it all out in advance because I think it's going to feel kind of dead if I do that. And I like to make it up as I go along because I always think about you guys, about readers out there, and I think, well, they all know the rules of fiction. They're all waiting for me to follow this rule and follow that rule and do things a certain way because that's what they expect them to be. And I always want to surprise people by going in a different direction than they expect. And I love kind of the idea that I'm tricking readers, and I'll just sit there and just kind of cackle, happily to myself, thinking, oh, they didn't see that coming. So I was driving my daughter to school one day, and I had this idea in the back of my head that there was something missing, and I thought, man, I know there's something missing. I don't know what it is, and I just had no idea what it was. I knew there was a hole there somewhere, and so I'm driving Julia to school, and I get cut off by a train, which doesn't happen often in Southern California. We don't have that many trains, but I get cut off by a train. I looked up and I saw the train go by, and right away it just clicked, and I said, oh yeah, train. So there's a train, put it that way, and there's train and Nutella. That's two words I'll give you for Plague that I don't think anybody will have seen coming.
Okay. Okay. Shifting gears a little bit. We were just wondering what Lena will be up to in Plague, and if her impact will be bigger than earlier on in the series.
She's got a hard time in Plague because her powers are not as effective in some ways as she would like them to be. I've always seen her kind of as ever since book one, she's been a somewhat secondary character. That is, she's like part of the original gang, but she always stands a little apart, if you know what I mean. She's always not quite completely connected to everybody else. And I kind of like that because I like her now as a kind of, very stressed, very powerful, very respected, very dangerous. She's a girl who walks around with a 45 automatic stuck in her belt. So, she's this kind of tough girl, bad girl, but at the same time, nobody has the nerve to mess with her because, if you get your leg cut off or something, you go to her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's...
With the doctor.
Yeah.
Way,
She's just the chilled out, vodka drinking teenager that goes in every school.
That's right.
Yeah, she is one of my favorite characters.
She's and she's going to have an interesting emotional development down the road as well. And I think that happens more in, I guess that's more in Fear, actually. She has a tough book in Plague too. Well, they all do. I mean, frankly, if you're going to call a book Plague, it's not a happy book.
Yeah, it can't really be like a really happy.
It's not. I just call it kittens and fuzzy animals.
Okay.
We really like the chapters in Lies when it's told from outside of the wall. How will the characters explore this situation, and will we get more chapters like this?
Not in Plague, because I'm, again, screwing with your heads. Because I want, at the end of Lies, first of all, we see something very interesting happen at the end of Lies. Then again, it's a book called Lies.
Yeah.
So, what have we seen?
Lies?
I kind of let that hang through Plague. And so you don't get an answer to that in Plague. However, chapter 1 of Fear, you will have huge revelations. Chapter 1 of Fear, everybody's going to go, oh my God. So I'm giving up Plague. I don't give up a lot. I give up some, some of the backstory, some of the mythology, but it's more focused on dealing with these particular threats that occur. So Plague. Now, I will say this: my British editor says she thinks Plague is the best book in the series so far, which I was very flattered by. And I have editors in various different countries, so I have my American editor, who's the boss kind of. But I also am close to my British editors. I talk to them, and they often have opinions and feedback and that kind of stuff. And she said, "No, I think Plague's your best one so far." And I said, "Oh, cool." Now she hasn't seen Fear yet, so we'll have to see if she likes that better. But, she said she was very pleased with the way Plague came out.
Definitely has to be a good sign.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I'm always, whenever I send off a book, I'm nervous about it. And I think I go through different stages where at the beginning I think, oh, this will be no problem, I'll whip through this, look at this, I'm zipping along here. And then I get in like 100 pages in and I hit some kind of wall and I go, oh my God, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. I'm an idiot, I shouldn't be writing for a living. And then I go through that process like 3 or 4 different times until I get to the end. And then right at the end, I'm always so disgusted by the book because it usually takes 5 or 6 months and I'm just kind of worn out by it. And
Yeah.
so right at the end, I just push the send button on the email because I email it as an attachment. That's how I submit it. And then it's just like, and when I write to my editor, I say, okay, here it is. Don't bother me about it for 2 weeks. I don't want to hear anything about it. I can't take it. I'm just burned out. So then they come back with, eventually, after a couple of weeks, whatever changes they've got. And sometimes they make really good suggestions. For example, she said the ending of Fear sucked. And I looked at it, she was right. I said, okay, yeah, you're right. It sucked. So I wrote a different ending. And mentioned something that I'd left out that was like obviously had to be included, and so I did that. And the same would have been true of Plague. And I'm trying to think if they had any problems with Plague or they came back at me as much. I don't think so. I think it was an easy rewrite, where so you send in your book, right, and they look at it, they send it back, and it comes up as comments in the margins. You can put, turn on whatever it is, the turn on comments thing. So it'll show all the changes and everything, and then we can go through it. And sometimes we argue back and forth in the comments. They say, "Why are you doing it this way?" And I write them a note, and I go, "Because it should be that way." And we go back and forth. And then eventually, we all kind of come to some kind of conclusion that there's not too many hurt feelings usually, and then everything's good. The Plague seems like it went really smooth. What was tough was Hunger, because my editor then, who has since left the company, and a guy I really liked, he was my first editor. He was the guy who edited Gone, and he edited Hunger. He looked at it and said, "This is a really great book, except for the last 200 pages." And said, "This is the wrong ending on this book, man." I looked and I just said, "I know." And I've known it the whole time I was writing. I knew I got off on a tangent. I knew it was the wrong ending. And I kind of just
Yeah.
So yeah, I know. I get it. Okay, so.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, that was painful. I got to tell you, that was painful, and it's hard because, as you know, as readers of the series, you can have 8 or 9 or 10 different plot lines going, and so then to be able to pick all that up again, like basically it's like it spreads out like the branches of a tree.
It's almost like you have to, yeah.
You want it all to come together perfectly at the end, and then to have to make it come together perfectly a whole different way was kind of complicated, but it's cool. As a result, I liked the book, and I was really happy with the results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Isaac, wait, I want to ask a quick question.
Sure.
Ever since you posted that video on your Facebook of you reading from Plague, I've been, like, dying to know who's on the back.
Oh, God, I don't know. Hang on a second. I just got my first hardcover of it. Because I'm not really that involved in the covers. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you who the girl is. That's supposed to be Brittany.
Okay.
And I was not happy with the Brittany they picked. Actually, she looks a little better now than she did because, I'd written her as a pretty unattractive girl.
Yeah.
But, what they do is and that's Sam, I think, next to her. I think that's the guy who plays Sam. And then on the cover, it's Astrid, and that's supposed to be Drake. So the way the covers work is they send me shots of models. But some of them we've had all along, like the Sam guy, the guy who plays Sam, the guy who plays Kane, the woman who plays Astrid and Diana. They've been kind of from book one.
Yeah.
And so they go back and occasionally just shoot them again. They do more photo shoots. But then they brought in the guy to play Drake, and they showed me a bunch of headshots, like 3 or 4. And I just said, you're going to the wrong place here because you're going to a modeling agency, and you need to be going to juvie or a mental institution or something.
Yeah.
Don't give me some pretty sweet guy who's going to be an actor someday. Give me a psychopath. But they couldn't really. I guess they couldn't find a psychopath. It's kind of hard to find that kind of person flying around. So yeah, I think that's supposed to be Sam and Brittany on the back. And the same problem with Brittany. They said, you look at Brittany and they said, well, we'll dirty her up a little bit. So she looks a little smudged. But if you kind of look past it, she's still a pretty girl.
Yeah.
And I hadn't written her that way at all. And I guess on covers of books, we just don't do unattractive people. And it's kind of,
It's not acceptable. It's just not.
Yeah, it just isn't. And it irritates me, honestly. But, what am I going to do? So, there are battles that I have, and there are battles I let go. Don't worry about it too much,
Very interesting. Okay. Drake's a very powerful character. Is he going to do anything that'll make us gasp while reading Plague, I assume?
I don't think he plays as big a role in Plague as he does. I know he plays a really big role in Fear. He's still around, and he's still Drake. He's still not a nice person. What's weird to me? The weirdest thing about Drake, I'll tell you where I got Drake from. Stephen King, who is kind of my literary idol, the guy I want to be when if I ever grow up eventually. Made a character called Trash Can Man in a book called The Stand, which was just a brilliant dystopian novel.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I thought, every time I've ever written a bad guy in Animorphs or any other series I've ever done, there's always been some edge of, something redeemable about him. There's been some nuance, some shade of gray. But with, and I thought, no, this time I'm going to create a guy with a character who is just, there's no shades of gray, there's no nuance, there's nothing nice about this guy, ever. He's just evil. And that was Drake. And I based him on Trash Can Man, who is a psychopathic, person who starts fires,
Pyromaniac?
Pyromaniac, yeah. So Trash Can Man in The Stand is a psychopathic pyromaniac. And I love the character because he's just so over the top, just pure evil. So I thought I could do that. I can make a character who's pure evil. So what do I get? I find out, I find girls online going, oh, Drake's my favorite character.
I know.
Like, oh my God.
Of course.
What is the matter with people? He's
not exactly Edward from Twilight. I'll just say that.
Exactly. He's not a bad boy in quotes. He's a bad boy.
He's very, like, snotty.
So I kind of feel like, so I actually mentioned in Fear, and this is a little point we had with the editors actually, where I said, listen, I wrote him, I had him explicitly, or we talked explicitly in the book about he's kind of a woman hater. And they go, well, is it, would it be accurate to think that a kid this age could have developed that kind of, hatred for women? I said, unfortunately, yes. And because he's a psychopath, and second of all, I'm trying to send a message here, which is this is not a guy you grow up and date. Don't go out with people like this and think you're going to save them. People who are, just evil, psychopaths, just stay away from them, or let the police handle them or something. So in any case, I was trying to send that message to unfortunately, some young girls looking at it going, "Oh, I love Drake because he's cute." He's not. He's not a nice person. So don't like him.
No, don't.
I don't.
Okay, we were interested, since Fear was originally darkness, is there a possibility of light being changed, or is that
No.
intended to stay?
No. As a matter of fact, I got to tell you something. I like I said, I never wrote this thing out, and I had no idea where the series was going. I mean, I knew a couple of things. I knew the basic mythology. I knew what had happened. I knew how the Gaia Phage came to be. I knew all that, right? But I didn't know how the series was going to wrap. And until they said, and then I came on the idea of darkness, and light just went with it. And as soon as I thought that the last book was called Light, I had about 50% of the answer. And then just as I was finishing Fear, which was originally darkness and became Fear, just as I was finishing it, I thought, oh my God, I know what's happening. And it was kind of cool because, I was as surprised as I hope readers will be when they see what happens in the final book. But now, for the first time, I'm now done with book 5, and for the first time I have a pretty good idea of how the series ends, and where we've gone on this whole trip, and how we're going to end it. And I'm now really happy with the ending of Fear, and Plague is going to go. Actually, there's going to be a time break between Plague and Fear. There's going to be about a 4 or 5 months, if I remember correctly, break. So we're going to kind of jump ahead. Some things will have happened. Some changes will have been made, and then we will pick it up in Fear. And so Plague is going to be very, I would say, more creepy than anything. If I look at it as Lies is kind of philosophical and political, and Plague is much more, I think, creepy and kind of will make your skin crawl a lot. And then when we go to Fear, well, that's self-explanatory. It's going to
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And then Light sounds like it'll just be all happy, but don't forget, sometimes the light shows you things you don't want to see.